chapter is leverage. What is leverage? So leverage is percentage change in x divided by percentage change in y, and a chart, important chart is sales less variable cost gives contribution less fixed cost gives operating profit or EBIT less interest gives EBT less tax gives EAT. After this we deduct preference dividend. If there is a preference dividend, this gives earnings available to equity shareholders. This is the net earnings available to equity shareholders. Then we divide this earnings, this is earnings available to equity shareholders. We divide earnings available to equity shareholders by the number of equity shares and we get earning per share. Okay. Next we'll see operating leverage. So degree of operating leverage is equal to contribution upon EBIT. Contribution upon EBIT and operating leverage is also called percentage change in EBIT divided by percentage change in sales. Next is operating break-even point and operating leverage. So operating break-even point is fixed cost upon contribution per unit. Operating break-even point is equal to fixed cost upon contribution per unit. Operating break-even point is equals to, this is in units and in value. Operating break-even point is equals to fixed cost upon profit volume ratio. So a break-even point analysis is generally used to study the cost volume profit analysis. It is concerned with computing the level of sales at which there will be no profit or no loss. Break-even point is the point where in that level of sales at which there will be no profit, no loss. Total cost is equal to total sales revenue or break-even point. Operating break-even point is that level of sales at which EBIT is nil. In other words, at operating break-even level of sales, contribution earned is equal to operating fixed cost. So it can be positive, negative and infinite operating leverage. So let's see, there's a graph. Degree of operating leverage can never be 0 and 1. It can be 0 or less, or it can be 1 or more. Next there is operating leverage and EBIT. So it can be negative, infinite or undefined, and positive. Operating leverage and EBIT is negative when operating at a lower level than break-even point. EBIT is negative, and it is infinite when operating at a break-even point, and operating leverage and EBIT is positive when operating at a higher level than break-even point. EBIT is equals to positive and will change in the same direction as sales. Next is margin of safety. Margin of safety is equals to total sales minus sales at break even point. Margin of safety is equals to total sales minus sales at break even point divided by total sales into 100. This is margin of safety ratio, total sales minus sales at break even point divided by total sales into 100. This is margin of safety ratio. The excess of total sales revenue, जो भी excess of total sales revenue है over the break even sales is known as margin of safety. Total sales minus break even sales, it represents the amount by which the sales revenue can fall before a loss is incurred. As at break even point there is no profit, no loss. Sales beyond the break-even point represent margin of safety because any sales above the break-even point will give some profit. A greater margin of safety indicates the soundness of the business. A large or margin of safety indicates low risk of making a loss, whereas a small margin of safety might indicate a fairly high risk of loss. If there indicates a vulnerability of a business to a fall in demand, margin of safety can also be expressed as a percentage of total sales. Relationship between degree of operating leverage and margin of safety ratio. So the relationship between this is EBIT by contribution. Operating leverage was contribution upon EBIT, and margin of safety is EBIT by margin of safety is EBIT upon contribution. Degree of operating leverage is equal to 1 by margin of safety. Margin of safety ratio, and margin of safety ratio is equal to 1 by degree of operating leverage. Thus margin of safety ratio is equal to EBIT by contribution. This was operating leverage. Next is financial leverage. Financial leverage this is written as DFL, which is degree of financial leverage, is equals to earning before interest and tax divided by earning before tax, which is earning before interest and tax divided by earning before tax. Now financial leverage can also be written as financial leverage is equals to percentage change in earning per share divided by percentage change in earning before interest and tax. So this is financial leverage. Next comes financial break even. EBIT is equals to interest charge. Financial break even EBIT is interest charge divided by preference dividend.